following is in response to the Sabbath School lesson of the last week of July 2026. In it, in covering the first book of Corinthians, it lightly touched on the state of being single or married. It did not give any inspired advice, so in class I mentioned that inspired words say it is better to be single than married. Well, that brought out an objection from one person who stated that this was just Paul's idea. And even he says it's not from the Holy Spirit. That God originally made humans to marry, and that if God's people all followed this advice, there would be no more of us. 2 of the 3 points are contrary to inspired words, with number 1 being very, very dangerous. First, let's quickly cover the inspired words on being single or married, taking for granted that yes, God did originally intend for humans to get married. See Genesis 1:28. Let's go to Jesus' day, where he's talking to his disciples in Matthew 19:10 and 11. The disciples said to him, "If such is the case of a man with his wife, it is better not to marry." But he said to them, "Not everyone can receive this saying, but only those to whom it is given." Well, this is clear that Jesus is agreeing with them, but he's saying it's not for everybody. So he's agreeing that it's better not to marry. Then we go to the heart of the matter here in 1 Corinthians 7. Let's look at verse 1. It is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. Well, it can't get any clearer than that. And then you go on down in the chapter, it says, "Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned." So we see that marrying is not a sin, but it's better not to marry. And then we have a more recent inspired insight on this from Ellen White and her husband in Review and Herald, March 24, 1868. If Paul could remain single and recommend the same to others, that he and they might be wholly the Lord's, why not those who would be wholly his, and wish to make a sure thing of avoiding the cares, trials, and bitter anguish so frequent in the experiences of those who choose the married life, remain as he was? When so much is at stake, why not be on the sure side every time? Of course, she did get married, but it doesn't matter if the messenger follows what the advice they give or not. The message is still true. And all 3 of these inspired quotes show clearly it is better to be single than married. And saying that any part of the Bible, like what Paul wrote, is not true or in error, that opens up a huge can of worms that you don't want to go to. Because the Bible is all from God or it's not. And whether the inspired messenger did the better thing, and think of Samson here or David, or not, has no bearing on the truthfulness of the matter. It's also better to be vegetarian than a meat eater. It's better to kneel than stand when praying. It's also better to live in the countryside than in the city. These are all things that God says are better, but it's not a sin to do something different. So when we're giving advice to especially young people, let's tell them what the better thing is. And if all the followers of Jesus had done the better thing, perhaps Jesus would have taken us all home to heaven before now.